The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, this is Patty Hunter. This is my show, Patty's Page. I would like to welcome you to this special show. It's over half an hour, and it is going to be done on Skype with Ruta Lee. She is 80 years young, and she's an actress, singer, and all-around beautiful person. In the beginning, before we interview her, we'll be showing a demo reel of her bio, of all the most of what she had starred in. And also, in the middle of the show, there will be another video clip talking about the Thalians. So, it's going to be a good one. Stay tuned. I'll be back in a moment.
Hello. Oh, it's Ruta Lee, the movie star.
I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of you. In spite of the warning voice that comes in the night and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little, you never can win. Yes, I've got you under my skin.
Welcome to Houston, Vegas, Mr. Fox.
Thank you.
Sure, great to see you.
No matter what happens tonight, nobody can say you haven't been a great father.
They think that you and I are having an affair. Oh, people collision.
I'm in real estate, not recycling.
You look different, that's all. Anybody who's been away from the screen for 7 years looks older. I once lost a guy. Broke my heart. But I didn't give up. I snuck into his apartment, and I lay on the bed, surrounded by rose petals. And I shaved a little heart.
Yeah.
All these years, I dreamed of meeting you. But it wasn't until Lilac was born that I realized I had to find you. So I made contact with an agency that specializes in birth mothers and their children, and they gave me your address. And all these years, there you were living right in the next town. But you never contacted me.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
What are you up to?
Who are you?
She's your granddaughter.
I seem to have grandkids coming out of the wazoo. When the hell did everyone get pregnant?
Oh, about 20 years ago.
Why didn't anyone tell me?
We did, dear. We did.
The memory occasionally fades a little. Sometimes I feel like the page is half blank.
Sweetie, you're a whole clean sheet.
At least I can remember what I liked about you, Lana.
Oh, what?
Nothing.
She was coming over to my house.
Your house?
Oh, Joe. I know I shouldn't have asked her. It was purely selfish on my part. The roads were bad. Oh, I know I shouldn't have asked her.
Well, honey, do I look all right?
Are you kidding? You look so fancy, very fancy.
You like it?
Yes.
You know, I don't usually wear pink.
No?
You know my favorite color? Shiny.
Somebody's friends, sisters, and pals. We'll always be for somebody's. If life should reject you, God is here to protect you. If I say that your tongue is vicious, if I call you a who is simply that. Who else but I for somebody? Let's sit down and tell you the truth.
When last year's ball was over, the year of Ruta Lee began. Stage work, TV movies, and 2 extraordinary honors. Our Thalia, George Pinocchio, has the good news.
It's a lifelong dream, of course, come true.
Ruta Lee is talking about receiving a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Debbie Reynolds, Alex Trebek, and Mitzi Gaynor all sharing in Ruta's monumental moment.
I am so honored and so delighted and so out of breath, and thank you for being here, George Pinocchio, and my entire Channel 7 team. Mwah, ABC team.
My only question, did Ruta practice posing with that sexy leg in just the right position? Next stop, Lithuania.
Oh, you silver-tongued devil.
Ruta could get away speaking those words to the president of Lithuania. In March, Ruta, Webb, and dear friend Paula Kent Meehan flew to Ruta's ethnic roots for a week-long celebration in her honor.
I am so honored. My heart is bursting with joy.
Radiant Ruta received Lithuania's highest honors awarded a civilian during a ceremony at the country's presidential palace. Plenty of fans, flowers, and photographers. If this happened in England, Ruta would now be a dame. But she says she's happy just being abroad. For the Thalians, George Pinocchio, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
So, Ruta Lee. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Patty.
I'm glad that you're on my show, Patty's Page, here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're way away from you, man.
I've never been to Fort Wayne, Indiana. I have played in Indiana, in Indianapolis,
Oh, yeah.
and I remember hearing the remark, I have to tell you, that when I played, I was doing a very, very funny show, and we had played at many other cities and knew exactly where every laugh was and every giggle was and every breath was. And here we are opening in Indianapolis, and we have a big opening night house with the mayor and everybody there. And the biggest laughs weren't getting anything.
Oh, yeah.
And we would all walk off stage going, what in the world is wrong? What is the matter with these people? Don't they know a joke when they hear one? And we were just so unhappy through the whole show until the very end of the show, when we got probably a 10-minute standing ovation. So I discovered that Indianapolis, they don't laugh out loud.
They're polite.
The women were going like this, and the men were going, but not a laugh to be heard. And then I heard that the famous Colonel Parker, who was Elvis Presley's guiding light and manager, said, if an act can survive Indianapolis, it can survive anywhere in the world. So I say bravo to you lovely, lovely people that have a sense of humor but are afraid to show it.
Well, with me being from Canada, you know.
Yes. Well, I'm from Canada too, Patty, so we're both Canucks.
Canucks, yeah. You are born in Montreal, Quebec.
That's right.
My dad was born there as well, eh?
Really? Really? Oh, I love the way you said that. My dad was born as well, eh?
Hey. So, many moons ago, you're from Montreal. Your parents, are they originally from Montreal, Quebec? Or?
No, my parents were born, raised, and married in Lithuania.
Ah.
In a little town that had two of the same names on either end of the parish, so to speak. And I was just there, as you probably know. I was in Lithuania just, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I made a point of taking one day for myself out of a very, very busy and wonderful schedule that I had there to go to these small towns and visit the church where my parents were both baptized and married, and then to visit the home and the gravestones of some of the family that were there. It was a very interesting experience. Anyway, they were both raised and married, as I said, in Lithuania, and then they wanted to come to the United States, but in 1929, the quotas were already closed for them to come into the U.S., and of course everybody in Lithuania knew that the streets of the U.S. were paved with gold.
Oh, yeah.
The closest they could come was Canada.
Yeah, that's true.
So my father got a job working in the wheat fields of Saskatchewan for a year, and then went back to Montreal and had my mother come to Montreal. There they thrived. They worked very hard and thrived. Canada was very good to them. And I was born there. And then eventually we moved to Southern California because my mother thought that I was Lithuania's answer to Shirley Temple.
Oh.
And so Hollywood was the place to be. My mother didn't know anything about theater. She didn't know anything about showbiz or being a showbiz mother, but she knew about the movies, and she saw Shirley Temple, and she said, gee, my daughter can do that. We go.
Aha, yeah. Listen, how old were you when you moved from Montreal?
11.
11?
Yeah.
So was it in the old section or the new section of Montreal? There's a French section and an English section.
Oh, honey, there's a French section and an English section on every street.
You bet.
On every block, on every house.
My dad was born in...
I don't know what you mean by the French section.
Well, the old section.
Old Montreal.
Old Montreal, yeah.
It was a mixture of both. I was born in Montreal, but we lived in Verdun.
My father was born...
I went to an English school,
oh, yeah.
But my neighbors were French, so
I know.
what can I tell you?
I know Verdun. My dad was raised in Dorval.
Aha.
Oui.
Near the airport.
Uh-huh. He lived on Ouimet Street. Boulevard, I mean. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just a street. He had 4 brothers and dogs all over the place when he was growing
how
up.
nice. How very nice. We live with dogs all over the place too.
Yeah.
We have 4 dogs. We're down to 1 cat, unfortunately, right now, and a great big white cockatoo and about 1,000 hummingbirds.
Is that all?
That's all.
Listen, how old were you when you went to Southern California?
11.
11.
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't hear you. I thought you asked me.
I think I did. In my memory, she's not too good sometimes. When you were a young adult, who influenced you the most? Who was your mentor?
Golly, that's kind of an interesting but tough question. I don't have an answer for it. I think the person that had the most influence in my life, and I don't think I realized it until I was very mature, was my mother.
Aye.
Without my mother and her own quiet little way, I don't think I'd be here. I don't think I would have had the career I had. There was a woman in not even grade school, before grade school, in the kindergarten that my mother put me in because they both worked very hard. Mrs. Jackson, I think, had the most influence on my life as a whole because she said to my mother, your child is a little different from the rest of the children that I have in my kindergarten classes. She is unusual and unique, and you should give her lessons in music or dance or whatever, but she should have a little bit of background training. And that's what changed my life. I was never a good student. Well, in school I wasn't bad, but when it comes to being a student of the arts, whether it was piano lessons or dance lessons or whatever it was, I never liked the practice. I never liked the rehearsal, but I sure love the performing.
Did you have to go to university to learn how to act, or
I think you learn how to act just living. I didn't go to university for that at all. I did take some classes when I was a little girl and just beginning high school. We somehow found a marvelous old character actress whose name was Laura Casely Brooks, and Laura taught acting, and I was her youngest student. She had some older, they were probably in their 20s, students, and she would put together little evenings where she would take a room at the Hollywood Girls Club, and she would invite agents and producers, whoever she could muster, to come and watch her students do some scenes. And that was kind of my beginning of working in the business. And through this process, I got my first agent when I was probably 13 years old. And then I had a brief stint of being put under contract through one of these evenings at 20th Century Fox, but that all happened as the business was coming to a close. The big studios were losing their grip, television was taking over, and contract players were being let go, and I, being the last to be put under contract, was let go after about a year. And I don't think I realized how sad it was, because it just didn't matter that much to me. I wasn't hungry. I was always managing to work in a little theater while I was going to high school, so I was a busy girl all the way through.
So what did your mom and dad do while you were doing the acting and all that? Did they...
My mom and dad always worked. My father was a tailor. My mother was a tailor as well, a seamstress, and they both worked. They were always smart enough to buy property and let it work for them.
Oh, yeah.
They would buy something and say, let's rent and let the tenants pay the mortgage, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we were always very sound that way, and they passed that own property, own what you have gene on to me. It would kill me to pay rent to somebody else.
Oh boy. You appeared on a number of sitcoms, TV shows.
About 2,500 of them. How's
Is that all? Is that all? Like, what's your favorite? Do you remember?
Of my sitcoms?
Yeah.
Well, of course, I would have to say that doing the Lucy show, whichever show I was doing of hers, was always a favorite, because we became very good friends. And she was a tough broad to work with,
yeah,
but also a wonderful friend. And she came through for me every time I wanted her to make an appearance for either the Thalians or for the City of Hope or whatever. She would come in and do a show. She was incredible, and I loved her. And I'm still very friendly with, of course, her daughter. And her son doesn't live in our area anymore, but we're good buddies.
We miss her very much. She's one of a kind.
I think the world misses Lucy. And I, discovered something very interesting from so many people that come to the United States from other countries. They would say, I learned my English by watching Lucy. Somehow you didn't have to speak English to understand what Lucy and was doing, and her antics more or less pervade whatever it was she was trying to let us all know. And you didn't have to speak English, you understood what she was doing.
Were you yourself a character actor or physical actor or what?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, you're
Every
a character.
actor is a physical actor. Every actor is
Like another...
You have to do everything.
Yeah.
There is no answer to that question except that if you act, you do it all.
Do you dance?
Yes.
And you sing?
Yes.
So, how long have you been singing? Many moons.
Since I was born, probably. I never thought that I was a good singer. I always thought of myself as a dancer first, and that singing just sort of came along because I've always had a very deep voice.
Oh yeah.
And my voice always in singing belied my character. It was deeper and stronger than the young girls I was playing. In Seven Brides, they used a voiceover for me, as they did for all the brides. That was a nice, high little treble voice.
Oh boy.
And I've always been a baritone,
Yeah, I like your voice.
When, as I was growing up and starting to do musicals and started developing enough of a name that would go above the title, I could now tell the conductor, no, we're going to lower all the keys into a nice low range for me. No matter, I don't care if the orchestra sounds dull, I don't want to get laryngitis, and I used to get it all the time trying to sing those high keys that were not for me.
You're forcing it.
Yes, I've been singing and dancing all of my life.
So, acting, you've had your own TV shows? Did you?
Well, yes, I've had several of my own TV shows, but my own TV shows were either as a guest or as a co-star on a show, or if it was my show, then they were interview shows, a great deal like what you're doing, except that we shot all over the country and all over the world, actually. And I interviewed celebrities from all corners of the world.
With Skype, I can interview anywhere on this planet.
Yes, you can.
And it's neat, really, to tell you the truth. It's an honor to be able to interview people who I admired for the longest time.
Well, bless you for wanting to do it and for sharing the wealth.
You won awards or stars or Hollywood fame?
To all of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was your favorite award?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. There have just been so many from so many countless organizations that do good for the world. When it comes to satisfying my ego the most, then I have to say getting a star on Hollywood Boulevard was very nice. I also have one on the boulevard in Palm Springs. I also have a star in front of the Thalians Mental Health Center at Cedars-Sinai here in Los Angeles. And one of the fun ones is, instead of a star on the sidewalk, I have a hitching post in Kanab, Utah. There are so many westerns.
But it's like a plaque.
That it's called Little Hollywood of Utah.
Tell me about the Thalians.
Thalians is an organization that was put together over 60 years ago by a group of young actors who basically got tired of being called hard-drinking, sex-minded, pot-smoking idiots that had nothing to contribute. Mm-hmm. And they said, we get together to party all the time anyway and have fun, sing or on the piano. Why don't we put something together and sell tickets to it and raise money for a charity? And they sent out, God rest her soul, Jane Mansfield, to look around for a good charity. And she came back a month later and said, well, all the good charities are gone. But I have found a doctor who deals with emotionally disturbed children. And an emotionally disturbed child is like a rotten apple in a barrel. The whole barrel will be infected unless this particular apple can be fixed. And so that's when the Thalians were born. And Thalia, of course, is one of the Greek muses who took care, she was the goddess of comedy, but she also took care of the straying lambs. Seemed appropriate.
Yeah.
And they started selling tickets to their events, and here we are many, many, many years later. Debbie Reynolds, my sister in charity and my best friend, and I changed roles between, well, changed, I should say, roles between president and chairman of the board for many, many years. Hugh O'Brien was our first president, Margaret Whiting was our second, Donald O'Connor was our third, and Debbie, and then we just keep changing roles. And we've honored all of the major stars of this world, from the big screen, from the little screen, from Broadway, people who not only can dazzle with their performances on stage, but can dazzle us with their performances philanthropically as well. And we've honored everybody from Frank Sinatra through Lucille Ball, through Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Just fabulous people. Clint Eastwood was one of our last, as was, God rest his soul, Mickey Rooney. And we now have slowed. We don't do an event every year because it's just too difficult and too expensive. So now we're trying to do one every other year or so. That's a big major event. But we still raise money for mental health, but we have now changed our direction and our purpose to taking care of the returning veterans in need of mental health.
Yes, because
so we are with UCLA's Operation Mend. Operation Mend heals the broken bodies. We Thalians are healing the broken mind and spirit.
Because mentally, being at war, killing people, and being harmed themselves, it does take a total effect on their minds. And
it surely does, and we're trying to help.
My dad was in the Second World War, a navigator, and he's seen action, and he had problems after he came back. I wish that they had people like the Thalians for him.
Yes.
But my mother was staunch, and she managed to help him along, but it was tough.
It's just as tough, I think, on the families
yes.
of our returning veterans as it is on the client themselves, because it's so hard to support somebody, and especially when it comes to mental health, which has always been such a hidden disease. And
I know.
we Thalians have been, as I want to say, been shining a spotlight on that dark hole that is called mental illness and bringing it into the light of healing. And if any of your listeners are interested in supporting the work that we do, please go to your websites and look up the Thalians, THALIANS.org.
Yes.
And if you have $5 to contribute, it'll help. And so I thank you in advance. I love the idea of paying things either back or forward, and doing a good deed for one of our veterans is a good way to do it.
I'm bipolar myself. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've had my problems, but I'm on meds, and so I have leading a regular life with a interesting husband of mine.
Well, God bless him for putting up with you, you silly broad.
Oh, I like you. You're so sweet to me. You're too kind.
my dear friends. Thanks to you, your generous hearts, and your generous pocketbooks, we Thalians have raised well over $30 million in support of mental health. Here's a staggering statistic. Do you know that mental illness affects more of us in our lives than all other diseases combined? Well, we Thalians, Hollywood for mental health, have been shining a spotlight into that dark abyss known as mental illness, bringing it into the light of healing. We have dealt from pediatric to geriatric cases. However, now our focus is on our returning veterans, those beautiful young men and women who give up their lives for our country. They need the best America can provide. And part of that best is at UCLA with Operation Mend. Operation Mend takes care of restoring broken bodies, while we Thalians have joined them in restoring the mind and the spirit of those beautiful men and women. Won't you please help us? We need you. God bless, and thank you.
We were clearing the road. I ran over a 7 Italian anti-tank mines dug in the road. Blew me out. I was on fire.
I remember hearing an explosion and then blacking out. And luckily, while I was blacked out, was the time where I was engulfed in flames.
Blew the engine block off one way and sent me out the other. The guy in the truck behind me, he said above the smoke cloud, he saw this black mass flying. I just disappeared, basically.
Roadside bomb went off, pretty much took off my whole lower mandible. Teeth, everything was gone.
The boiler was damaged and it ended up exploding. As we were evacuating the space, we were getting burned by steam that was well over 1,200 degrees.
I didn't really feel any pain, and then slowly but surely it started kicking in, and then I really kind of knew that I was in trouble.
Honestly, I was thinking, I hope they don't call my mom.
You don't know what your future holds, what you're going to be able to do with your kids, how people are going to look at you.
It was almost like that wasn't me staring at myself in the mirror.
How could my kids want to be seen with a monster?
I would get a lot of stares and a lot of looks, and I started, isolating myself, and that's when my family kind of stepped in and said, you need to do something.
Operation Mend is a collaboration between UCLA and the military medical community to provide subspecialty services, share the expertise that we have at UCLA in various clinical disciplines with wounded warriors from Iraq and Afghanistan.
And making sure that they get the absolute best care that the private sector has to offer, coupled with the most respect for what they get from military medicine and our Veterans Administration.
We can give a complete set of services of taking care of their family, their psychosocial well-being, and their physical well-being. And I'm happy to say that Operation Mend is free to every service member and their family who qualifies and is referred appropriately.
Initially, we were doing predominantly secondary burn reconstruction, a lot of catastrophic facial burns.
Then we saw that ones that have had facial injuries have had head injuries too, orthopedic injuries, psychological injuries.
As soon as we get a referral, we coordinate all of their care. We don't want them to ever feel alone when they're here.
We want to make sure that the family, as well as the patient, are resilient.
Operation Mend has a family care manager on staff that meets with the patients every time they're here and their families.
They want to know if you're struggling with something emotionally, they can help you.
It really helped us together as a couple, and I can't thank them enough.
They have been not only good to my husband, but if I'm hurting emotionally, they've been there for me.
The Operation Mend Buddy Family programs give them a hands-on way to get involved and really make a difference in the life of a wounded warrior and his or her family.
My buddy family, they pick you up,
You know, and it's like they just kind of put their arms around you and say, hey, you know, whatever you need.
They take the dynamics of your family, match it up with the dynamics of a buddy family so that everybody has somebody to talk to. It's a very family-oriented place.
The family support component is so strong. You need family around you to heal.
It means so much to me to work with these patients. They are incredible people.
These are true heroes. So the passion that you see in us is really a reflection of the incredible inspiration that these young men and women spill out every day.
This really changes their quality of life, their new normal. You know, their new normal is a lot better than what it was. And from burns to hands to brain injuries to eyes to whatever, they're changing lives.
You can have all the best surgeons in the world to heal this. But if you can't heal this, what good does it do? So when you have it all working together, you have Operation End.
So when you went over to Lithuania, this was back in 2008 or 9?
That was 10 years ago, and then I was just there 2 weeks ago.
You were given a medal by the El Presidente from there, eh?
Yes.
What for? What was the medal for?
For making the world, through my celebrity and my entree into all kinds of social stratas of this world, making people aware of Lithuania. When I was a little girl and growing up, Lithuania wasn't even on the map.
Oh.
It was all under the heel of the Soviet Union. And while I think the Russians are beautiful, wonderful people, I cannot say anything but the worst words possible about what communism is and what it does to any people that become enslaved by it. And Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia were all countries that just disappeared for over 60 years under the communist heel. And so I always had the opportunity to speak of Lithuania because people would say, what the hell kind of a name is Ruta, R-U-T-A? And I would have to say it's Lithuanian, and thereby talk about Lithuania and how wonderful it was until it all became communist.
Wow.
And once it gained freedom,
when?
I was there 3 times while it was all communist.
Right.
And it was a dark, horrible, terrible place to be, as any country under communist rule is. The pits.
Yeah.
That's all I can say about it. The minute it became independent and started stripping away all the communist crap and started glowing and shining, wow, what a difference. 10 years ago, and now I recommend it to everybody. It's kind of one of the must-do things on a list that nobody recognized until it gained freedom. But all of those countries are sensational, and Lithuania really is the shining place to visit. I recommend it to everybody.
Does Lithuania have a state religion or?
Oh, it's mostly Catholic. I would say 80%, 85% Catholic. The rest, there's a big Jewish colony, of course, and there would be quite a few Lutherans, I would imagine.
I'm Lutheran.
And now, of course, there are other Protestant religions that have come in a little more, but it's mostly Catholic.
I was raised Catholic and then became Lutheran, so either way.
It's close enough. It's
Close
just
enough.
a different path to God.
What are your plans for the future, my dear?
To live the 120 years that we are promised in the Bible.
That's true. I don't mind
And
doing
I'm
that.
going to try to live them in good health, but above all, in good humor.
Now you.
If there's one thing I love in this world, it's the sound of laughter. I think it's the most beautiful music that there is. And it just means that everybody is having a great time if you're laughing your way through.
That's true. I like to see things in a light way. I don't like being negative, depressed all the time.
Good for you. I mean, I can look at 3 garbage cans in a row and find great humor and great art in it, and I just love to laugh. That's, we have a bird, this big white cockatoo with a golden crest.
Oh, yeah.
And he does only 2 things. He doesn't talk, but he barks because he hears the barking, and he laughs better than all of us put together. Because that's the sound that you hear around this house. It's the sound of laughter.
I love that. I love that. We got 3 cats. 2 15-year-olds, Scotty and Seymour, they're brothers. And Pookie is 11 years old, and she's Scotty's, intended and all that. They're a couple. So your first job at Grauman's Theater, Chinese Theater. How did that go? Many moons ago when you first started?
Yeah, I was going to Hollywood High at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I would get a job during the summer at I think 45 cents an hour.
Wow.
And I hear people squawking now that they want $15 an hour to put a pickle on a bun. It makes me crazy.
Yeah.
But I thought 45 cents an hour was pretty terrific, and I got a job at Grauman's Chinese Theater. I had worked in other theaters down the block on Hollywood Boulevard,
Oh, yeah.
but this was the creme de la creme, because you got a beautiful little uniform with a Chinese tunic, a red Chinese tunic with gold frogs on it.
Oh, I bet that looked beautiful.
And I loved being an usherette. Of course, most of your younger viewers won't even know what the hell an usherette did, but we walked people down the aisle with a flashlight and put them in a seat somewhere, right?
Yes.
And I thought that was great, because I'd stand at the top of the aisle and watch the goddesses on the screen, wonderful June Haver and Betty Grable and Mitzi Gaynor. Oh my God, these fabulous women, Ethel Merman, in all these musicals, and I'd stand there with my heart throbbing and do the numbers with them and say, one of these days I'll do that. Well, then I got promoted to Candy Girl. Now you have to understand that I was always lousy in math.
Ah.
Terrible in math.
Oh my.
And I thought I could deal with this, because everything was either 10 cents or 20 cents or 25 cents or 50 cents. Those amounts I knew how to deal with and make change. And everything was fine, because then I could scoot over from the candy counter and stand at the top of the aisle until somebody needed something.
Mm-hmm.
Then one night the cashier got sick.
Uh-oh.
And I got promoted to cashier in the box office. Well, this was a little more difficult.
Mm.
Now they said, look, there's a machine here, and you say, okay, 2 tickets at $1.98, and then you put in $5, and it'll give you the right change.
Right.
And I was so nervous and so upset. Long story short, we were $40 short that night.
Hot dang.
And I got fired.
Mm. And now...
I stood there in tears, crying to the manager, saying, I didn't steal the money, I'm just not good at math, and I didn't want to do this, and someday you'll be sorry, because I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to have my hand and footprints in the courtyard of the Grauman's Chinese. Fade out, fade in. 40 years later, or whatever, 50 years later, I'm offered and given my star on Hollywood Boulevard, and where is it? Right in front of the box office of the Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Now, isn't that a coinkydinky?
Now, isn't that God working in mysterious ways?
Yes, you had revenged.
I just, look up to heaven every time and go, thank you, God, thank you.
You did tell him that you were going to do it, and you did
That's
it,
right.
What would you like to say to my audience? to encourage them to continue doing what they want to do and not have anyone hold them back. No one held you back, so...
You know, I encourage people, we can't all be glamorous stars or celebrated people. That somehow God smiles in a certain way on those people, but most everybody who is a celebrated or glamorous person has earned it. They've worked very, very hard for it. And there are a lot of ways of working for it. Now you find ways, Patty, in doing good for more than just yourself, whether it's your audience or members of your community or members of your family. You reach out, and I know you do good things for other people.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think when you do that, when you remember I talked about either paying it back or paying it forward.
Yeah.
I think that the Almighty Lord, whatever the power is that is bigger than we are, sprinkles a little stardust on you and helps you along the way, as long as you are reaching out and doing something for somebody other than yourself. Oh, you have to help yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
God does help those who help themselves. But if you can help someone else along the way, it's good. God gives us two hands. One to help ourselves and the other to help our neighbor or someone who needs the help. So that's my advice to everybody. Reach out. Try to help someone else. Don't be selfish with your time. Don't be selfish with your energy, and don't be selfish with your prayers. Spread them out there. They do good.
Thank you, ma'am. I love you.
I love doing it. Thanks. And thanks to your entire audience for putting up with Patty and Ruta. Mwah! God bless.
Bye, doll.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us always.